Hey, Seekers, and welcome back to the Hanged Woman podcast. I'm your host, Julienne Irons, and this month we're exploring happiness from three unique angles: practical, scientific, and energetic. Now, last week we heard from the amazing Mackenzie Stewart, who shared her From Fear to Freedom process and helped us to reconnect with our authentic selves. And next week we'll hear from D. Marty Burgos, a doctor who specializes in neuroscience, and we're going to find out what's happening in the brain and body when we feel joy. But today, we're taking the practical conversation in a very different direction with Joel Drazner. Joel's perspective is both challenging and deeply freeing. He teaches that peace is not something we have to find, because it's who we already are. He helps people dissolve the belief that happiness is out there somewhere waiting to be found. Instead, he invites us into the only place happiness can exist: right now. And here's the kicker. Joel says this doesn't require techniques, rituals, special knowledge, or even new beliefs. Just truth. Direct and simple. This is the Hanged Woman podcast, where perspective is power. Let's get into it. So Seekers, one of the things I've realized over the last year is that building a business can start to feel like you're constantly looking outside of yourself for the answer. Should I post this? Should I change my niche? Should I sound more like this person or that brand? At Three of Cups Healing, the branding agency I've built with my sisters, we've realized that sometimes the biggest perspective shift is recognizing that the answers usually aren't out there. They're already within you. That's why we use tarot, intuitive energy healing, and strategic competitive research to help entrepreneurs uncover their authentic voice and translate it into a personalized brand guide that's rooted in who they truly are. Because when your brand finally sounds like you, everything gets a little easier. Your vision, your magic. Let's make it real. Together. Visit threeofcupshealing.com to learn more and book your free consultation. That's threeofcupshealing.com. Okay, let's get into this week's perspective shift. Joel, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm very glad to be here as well. Thanks for inviting me.
So why don't we start with you telling me just a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the work that you do.
I was born in the middle of a previous century, and I've done a lot of different things along the way. But about a dozen years ago, I decided to go back to grad school and get a master's in something called spiritual psychology. And I learned a lot of different approaches to examining what the nature of reality is, and what our human experience is like. It was a wonderful course, but it turned out to be just like a Whitman sampler of what was available to keep pursuing. It wasn't the end of anything. The master's class offered a professional coaching program afterwards. And because I liked what I had learned, and I thought, if there's any way I could be instrumental in helping to share this in the world, then I'd like to learn more. I had been a long-time book and publications editor, but now I was going to set out to become a coach of sorts through this coaching program. And in that coaching program, I learned something that was beyond anything I had learned in the 2 years of the master's program. It was a pointing to an understanding of how our human experience is created. And I don't want to get into the details of that, because while that was really beneficial, I moved on even beyond what I learned there. But the takeaway from that coaching program was learning something that, in the moment that I heard what was being taught, it completely severed the link for me between how I was feeling, my emotions, my feelings, and the outside world of circumstances. Prior to that, like everybody else that I knew, I needed things to be a certain way out in the world in order to continually feel happy or improve my lot in life, or feel better. Or if I didn't quite maintain relationships with certain people in a way that I thought I needed them to be, then I was not okay as I would have been if I maintained those relationships correctly, or maneuvered those relationships correctly, or manipulated those relationships correctly. And so I was always living in kind of this sense of needing to monitor under the surface my relations with people. Okay, you like me now, but did you like me as much now as you did when I started asking you this question? Do you like me? It was just continual, not for everybody, but for people that for whatever reason I deemed important, either to my career or to my romantic life. I always had my feelers out. Okay, what do they think now? What is this one? Oh, what was that expression? Oh, did I do something, But now in a flash, it was as clear as a bell that as solid as that look, that causal link between circumstances and my feelings, as solid as that seemed to be, it wasn't true. There was no direct link. There was something interposed between what I observed in the world and how I was feeling inside. Do you have a clue as to what this might be?
I literally just about to ask you, who is that middleman? How do we access it?
Yeah. So it's not a who,
To what?
it's a what. So the mediator between outside circumstances and what I was feeling was my thinking.
Mm.
It became everybody kind of knows this,
Mm.
but we gloss over it because it just looks so strong that the outside circumstances still need to be handled.
Absolutely.
But now, for the very first time, beyond a shadow of a doubt and crystal clear, there was no link between what was happening and how I was feeling. It was all coming from my thinking. I was living my entire life playing feeling ping pong with my thinking. But for what I was thinking in that moment, I could be feeling a completely different way, irrespective of whatever the circumstances were, or whatever faces people made, or however I thought they thought of me, or what my bank account level was, or how I looked in my new clothes, or it was all coming from not the place I thought it was coming from. This was a massive, massive realization. And in the moment of recognizing that, it was like decades of the weight of anxiety just was lifted off of me. And this is now going on about 12 years and it hasn't come back for a single day. I don't want to give too much credence to the names of the processes that brought me to this. But what happened was in the coaching class, there was a visiting teacher who would come once every other month, and he would share videos of working with clients that he worked with who were exploring this modality called the three principles. You have to write that down because I'm going to go past the three principles. But the three principles, it sounded kind of fascinating, and the two videos that he showed of his clients were fascinating beyond belief. There were two very articulate coaches themselves who were clients of this coach, and they were utilizing this understanding. Well, before the course ended, the two people I'd seen in the videos held a joint event together in Santa Monica, just practically my own backyard, on a Saturday. So it didn't make any sense to miss that. So I went to that, and over the course of that weekend, hearing what went on the Saturday event, and then talking to some of the people who were still in town afterwards, the penny dropped on oh, what you experience comes from thinking and not from the outside world. And it was such a massive revelation that I couldn't wait to start sharing that. I was this baby coach just getting up on my legs and starting to work with people. But to the degree that I could even explain what I learned, and I couldn't explain very much, right away, some of the people that I had been working with seemed to have a similar breakthrough. I thought, okay, that's it. I'm all in, baby. I got to find out all about this three principles stuff. So I went to seminars, I read books, I watched videos, on and on. And for several years, just this extensive sense of equanimity, where there was, at best, the spotty sense of it over the years, it had now settled in underneath my life events. And when I say this, I hope the people listening realize, okay, I'm not talking about like I heard one thing and I walked around in a state of bliss for 12 years and nothing ever happened. The truth is, the entire palette, the entire spectrum of emotional feelings that I've was familiar with over the years is still continuing like it ever did. The difference is, whereas before I thought I was whatever feeling state I was in. Oh, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm happy, I'm giddy, I'm whatever. Now it's also very apparent to me that I'm not any of those. I am the broader, infinite, borderless space, if you will, within which all of these different emotions continually come and go. So now, instead of needing to manipulate or improve each feeling as it came in, what a useless thing it seems now to try to improve my emotional state, because it's temporary anyways. It just has its own steam-like quality. It's going to dissolve and the next feeling will come. But the attention that I pay, if I do, to the space within which these feelings are happening is where the continual, unbreakable gold of peace and steady, quiet joy reside 24/7 without interruption. So as I kind of like sunk into that understanding or whatever, or marinate in the understanding, there aren't really, there's a lot of descriptive words, but none of them quite exactly get it. But as I allow that understanding to be, or allow myself to be rooted in that understanding, all the tools I'd studied and methods and processes and whatever to get to a place where something in the world was better and that I needed to be at, and I wasn't going to be fully okay until I got there, all of that started to dissolve, started to evaporate. And I just got to know myself as this unbreakable, aware peace that was the unlimited home of all the other feelings and circumstances.
That is so incredible. I mean, even as you're talking, just based on the concept, I already am starting to feel a sense of peace. Just you saying that our emotions they're fleeting, that they don't last forever.
Well, just everybody who's listening at home, have you ever had an emotion that never changed and never changed in
Right.
intensity? I don't think there's anybody who's had an emotion from birth that was never, even for a sec, even on your worst day, your worst depressed day, for 10 seconds, maybe you couldn't find your car keys and all you could do was find your car keys. You found them, then you went back to the depression you were in before you started looking. So none of it is solid and permanent.
That takes the pressure off of the moment to have to I have to change this right now. It's like it'll shift. You don't have to force anything, it'll shift. So you describe your approach as radical in its simplicity. Can you unpack that for us just a little bit more?
In that descriptor, radical is doing the heavy lifting. It's playing the ironic comedian. Normally, when we think of doing something radical, we think about going into the world and shaking things up, but this is radical on the other end of the number line, in which we leave all of that alone. It's radical nothingness, and it's only radical in the contrast it stands to chaotic and frenetic and pressurized doing. And I guess compared to the fact that if you go into Barnes and Noble, where I worked for 6 years during one stint of my life, you'll find a self-help, ever-growing self-help section where virtually every book on the shelf is filled with some sort of process that suggests, oh yeah, you could be better if you follow something in this book, usually with noble intention. It's a baked-in seed of a belief that will keep you from ever being what it is that you wanted to get from this book. It's telling you right at the beginning that you are not as good as you could be. So I guess the radical is, I'm here to help you put that to rest for good. You are made of what it is that you're looking for. And that sounds like a really good spiritual fortune cookie thing to get at a party. But what I try to do is help people see that if you examine it deeply, it becomes so obvious that that's true. It's just kind of hiding in plain sight. In fact, I write, although I haven't for a couple of months, but I'm going to get back to it on Substack, and my Substack is called No Point B. And it's all about just knowing that we are only ever living at point A. The only time we could ever be living in is now. And the only place we could ever be is here. So the appearance of here and now will be constantly in flux. The content of here and now will forever be in motion. But we will never not be here and now. So it's not true that there's some place other than here and now that contains what we need in order to be better than we are.
So, where do you think the belief comes from that happiness is something that we need to earn or achieve?
If you were to guess, what would you say?
I would say society, I would say our parents, those main things that teach us who we should be, religion.
You got it. It's all of those. And yet it starts really at infancy. When you first come out of the womb, you can maybe sense something's different than the womb that you were in, but you haven't really, you're a pudding head and you don't realize that there's any difference between your mother's body and you. You haven't individuated yourself at all. But you start feeling sensations, the temperature of the room, hunger, this, that, or whatever. And in not too long a time, as your hard drive is gaining data, one of the first pieces of data is, oh, when I wail away, that nice lady comes into the room and takes care of me. So there's a link between, oh, I have a need, and if I do something, it'll be fulfilled. And that gets in very early. And almost everything that we take in about the world, we take it in terms of relieving whatever baby discomfort I might have. But I'm underneath all of that, I'm kind of patterning myself to know, this is all about continually changing something in order to feel good, to feel okay, to feel better. Also, we're raised by people, no matter how deeply they may love us with the best of intentions, they never learned what we're talking about. So all of their care toward us supports the illusion that, oh no, I'm needing to be in a better place in order to be better. I better raise this kid. I better teach them all about all the skills they need in order to get better, to maybe get into school. And not only do they have to be good at what they do, but they've got to have good luck. And some people make it and some people don't. And endless variations of that. And then people who grow up form the society that's all founded on that illusion. People form nations that's founded on it. Rulers of nations are acting out of their not understanding this. And so it makes sense that probably more than 99% of the human population thinks that they're a limited being who continually need to, affect the world in some way in order to be okay.
So, what is the illusion and how do we free ourselves from it?
So I want to posit that if we could see what the illusion is, hold to at least the possibility that we won't need to answer the second part of your question, because that will start to look like, oh, how can I get to a place where I understand this better? After this talk, if this sinks in, you're going to start catching yourself in the myriad ways you think it looks like something needs to change in order for you to be happier than you are.
Joel, I literally have goosebumps all over my body and like tears in my eyes. That is because that's like the word that's coming to my mind is affirming.
Yeah.
And freeing.
It's so freeing. And again, for everybody listening, exactly what you're feeling is available to all of them without exception. I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to get that from this talk, but I at least want to plant the seed that's available to everybody on this planet, no matter what their life has been up to this moment. So the illusion is, and it's a really well-founded illusion because the special effects that support it are spectacular. The illusion is that who you are resides in a physical body powered by a cluster of thoughts called your mind. And that body mind is separate from all other body minds. And with your strongly fashioned belief in that over the course of your life, you, like virtually everybody else, lives with the sense of, oh, there's me, there's this inside me from the inside of my skin inward, and from the outside of my skin outward is a separate world. And it's this belief in separation that's the cause of all human suffering. Ultimately, if we're going to be consistently happy, the only point B, so to speak, is seeing through the separation. But the result of seeing through the separation is recognizing we're always only at point A. So it's a little bit of a paradox depending on how your finite human mind looks at it.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Most of us live as if who we are is kind of ensconced in this body, somewhere like behind our chest and looking out of the world through our eyes. So inside this flesh and bone capsule, there's a me inside there. And we live as if that's the case. You know, we live physically in spaces as if that's the case. It kind of makes sense. It really feels like that if we don't look at it. Right. But if we really granularly start to explore that, here's where it gets fun and kind of weird. If you reside inside your body, then logically part of your body isn't you. Part of your body is the container that's not you, but you're in here somewhere. So what is this body that isn't you? Like, where are you located inside yourself? Do you stop at your knees? Are you only you from your knees up to somewhere in your head, and the rest of your body isn't you? Because we kind of move through the world as if kind of that's the case. So even like in exploring logic, we might have to say, oh no, my entire body has to be me. Obviously there couldn't be this thing that's my body that isn't me. What is it then if it's not? So let's say the entirety of my body is me. Well, then where do I stop and quote unquote not me begin? Can you find an actual hard border? It looks like it if you just look visually, but if you go to the experience of yourself, can you find the molecule where it's you and the next molecule isn't you? And in fact, if you don't mind, close your eyes for just a second and hold your hands out, hold them up and out. Now, bring your attention to what feels like the edge of your, the outline of your fingers or hands. Can you find a hard border there? Or is it kind of ill-defined and airy? There may be a cluster of energy that feels generally like your hand, and then if you go beyond it, the energy kind of dissipates, but you can't necessarily find a hard border, correct?
Right. There's no hard border. It's just like skin and then what's next.
Right. So now bring your attention to right where the skin and the what's next are. And are you feeling two separate sensations, or is it one single sensation?
It's like one single sensation.
Cool.
Yeah.
So other than your lying eyes when you open them, your entire knowing of yourself is not separate from the world.
Mhm.
So our eyes, those of us who have sight, have this continual trickster that seems to divide us from an outside world.
Mhm.
Yet in all our other experience, there's a single whole to it. There's a unified whole to it. So now you can at least see we're starting to mount some evidence that we don't live separated from everything else. There's at least room for some doubt, even though, oh, but I can see I'm over here and there's stuff. Okay, right.
Yeah.
So let's put the truth of the separation we see to another test. Okay. So look around your room, and you see there's myriad objects, right? There's all kinds of things. And you can see them and they look distinct from one another, right?
Mhm.
It's fine. But here's kind of a dumb question to ask. I mean, a silly question to ask, but I'm asking anyways. Is there anything that you see that isn't in the realm of seeing?
Oh.
Or is everything you see within your capacity to see?
Everything I see is in my capacity to see.
Okay, cool. So if we turn in the other direction, where does your capacity to see start? Does it start an inch or two away from you, or does it start within?
It starts within.
Yeah. Okay. So if seeing starts within and everything that there is that you see is within the function of seeing, then the function of seeing, everything you see, and you make up one undivided whole.
Wow. So we're all just, everything's just one. There is no separation. Oh,
No separation. Everything that you see, without exception, appears within your capacity of seeing, which originates within you, not external to you. Okay, so at least with respect to seeing, we've laid a pretty good case for the fact that there's one singular whole. Okay. So I don't have to belabor the point, but if you close your eyes and did the same thing with sounds, the same sort of understanding would map over. You'll close your eyes for just a moment, right? Okay, as I'm talking, each syllable is that's coming out, the previous one disappears, the next one appears. And there may be background sounds in your home or your neighborhood or sound of your own breathing, whatever it is, maybe a distant traffic noise happens. And your very well-developed thought over the years assigns distance to those sounds. But every sound that you're hearing, no matter how distant or close it seems to be to you, wouldn't you agree it's appearing within your capacity to hear? And where does the capacity to hear start? Does it start at a distance from you or within?
within.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everything you hear, your capacity for hearing, and you make up one undivided whole that only thought seems to separate into individual things.
Mm-hmm.
So you can map that understanding onto all of your senses: smells, touches, tastes, the feeling of textures.
Absolutely.
So, with respect to your complete sense perception apparatus, no matter how developed it is compared to somebody else's, you, everything you perceive, and your capacity for perceiving make up a single undivided whole. To the degree you understand that, it'll become less and less solid to look like something out there is causing my distress, because there isn't a something out there, there's just all of me. Now the same understanding of the unity of being, so to speak, applies to our thinking, because your one thought comes, then disappears, and then another thought comes and disappears, another thought comes and disappears, and this goes on all day long. But does your capacity for thinking exist outside of you, or is it within?
It's within.
Okay. So you, all of your thoughts, and your capacity for thinking make up one undivided whole.
Mm. Right.
Other than for the human realm where we see things and meet people and have stuff to live a life, just because we're having transactions in that realm doesn't mean we have to believe the solid reality that those are separate things. We can start to see that, oh yeah, I live in a world of multitudes of things whose underlying reality is just the singularity of being. And as that becomes more and more of my day-to-day understanding, it starts to leach the capacity for things and circumstances to cause my feelings. Feelings may still arise because that's what life is. It's a continual kaleidoscope of feelings. But now that I understand a little more about what's going on, I'm quickly not at the level of victimhood or mercy to the world needing to be different in order for me to know my own okayness.
Okay, Seekers, I think this is a really great place to take a break. We'll be right back with the episode. Grief doesn't move in a straight line, and it doesn't come with a clear path forward either. Seekers, if you've experienced loss, whether it's a loved one, a pet, miscarriage, or another life transition, Healing After Loss was created to support you through it in a real and grounded way. Led by trauma-informed intuitive energy healer Julienne Irons, this self-paced course gives you space to process your emotions, understand what you're moving through, and find your own path forward with tools, reflection, and optional life support along the way. And because you're listening to The Hanged Woman, you can receive 10% off with code TheHangedWoman. Remember joy again and learn more at threeofcupshealing.com/HAL course. That's threeofcupshealing.com/HAL course. And the code for 10% off is The Hanged Woman. You know, one of my favorite parts of building Three of Cups Healing with my sisters has been the perspective shift that branding isn't really about creating something new. It's about uncovering what's already there. That's why we combine intuitive tarot, energy healing, and strategic competitive research. Because we don't just help you build a brand, we help you discover what makes it uniquely yours. My sisters and I have watched clients stop trying to fit into someone else's idea of success and start building businesses that actually sound and feel like them. And y'all, that's where the real magic is. Your vision, your magic. Let's make it real. Together. Visit threeofcupshealing.com to book your free consultation. All right, y'all, let's get back to the perspective shift.
What I feel like you're saying, it's not even about happiness or joy. Like there's something else, because happiness and joy is a fleeting emotion. So like I'm like, there has to be something else underneath that's really the truth, because happiness and joy can ebb and flow.
If and when I'm working one-on-one with somebody, a little bit of our early work on is both of us recognizing that every one of us has different ways of using the same words. We have different definitions and connotations for the same terminology. So you were saying so many brilliant things already that show how much you've recognized in a short amount of time. But I would phrase it a little differently when you said happiness and joy are not fleeting emotions. They're the name for the arena in which all the other emotions come and go. Usually when we think of happiness, we think of some sort of blissy sort of woo, or that kind of state. But what I'm talking about is an open, unobstructed awareness, which is kind of gilded in this knowing that all the different feelings that come and go are known to this space. And if something is known to me, then that can't be me. I'm either something or I'm the witness of it. I'm that which knows that thing. So even though earlier on we said, well, we don't have to manipulate our emotions, you came back to, well, how do we live in this world? We've got to do something in order to change our feelings and be able to live this way. And that was just, it's so understandably indicative of how deep our conditioning is rooted. That we go back to, oh yeah, no, I've got to change my emotions to get the no, you need to keep coming back to knowing the space within which the emotional feelings happen, rather than needing to do anything to the emotions that are there. Over a short period of time, as we're learning this and integrating it, we would keep coming back to knowing that we're the unlimited space within which all our sense perceptions and thoughts and feelings arise. We're not any of our thoughts, feelings, or sense perceptions. So no matter how powerful they are, they can feel like, oh, instead of our knee-jerk reaction to deal with those it's to temporarily turn our attention away from them, to shine the attention back on us as the space in which they happen, rather than dealing with feelings themselves. Let me know if that makes sense. If it doesn't, keep asking.
It does make sense, and it also seems like it takes a bit of discipline to be able to do that, to like be able to like shift your focus rather than being caught up in the moment of whatever that emotion is.
I could just put my foot down and argue you off of that thought. Let's just say whatever it's for the moment at the beginning stage, whether it seems like willpower or discipline or whatever, if you think there's something you can do to come back to it, then do so. Otherwise, or at the same time, keep open to the idea that there's nothing to do to get to where I always already are. Because even to have the feeling I need discipline to do something is just a thought arising in a place where thoughts arise. So no matter what thought comes up, if you could gently ask yourself, well, to whom or what is this thought appearing that I need to do something? And that will bring you back to it.
Because that's conditioning as well. To think that I need to be disciplined in order to get back to this feeling that is me.
There are endless layers of, oh, but I gotta in order to. And then we get it logically and we see it more, but then, oh, there's new layers and new layers. And it's a continual joyful undergoing of releasing all of these things. But life becomes so beautiful along the way. It's not like, oh, when am I going to get there? And I'll see. It's not like that. It's like, oh, I'm just feeling better and better. And then, little things we're ready to release that have been conditioned and kind of come up when they're ready. And then, oh, and that's where, if I work with somebody, that's what I can work with them on. There's nothing they need to get from me that will put them at point B. I'm just a temporary helper to see you're always at point A, and point A is 100% endowed with everything you're searching for.
And I feel like this answers my question of how do we not allow circumstances outside of us, outside of our control, to dictate how we feel. And the reason they make us feel a certain way is because we've been conditioned to make us feel a certain way.
Yeah, because you had mentioned, I don't need to deal with things that are out of my control. And a little part of me was thinking, well, what does she think is in her control?
And that is such a great question, because even in my space right now, a meteor can come and crash through my building. And that's like, I don't.
Yeah. Or we live in LA. We could have the big one.
We can have the big one, an earthquake,
Wildfires.
So really, is nothing in my control? Can I make choices to allow things to happen?
Well, on one level, you can make choices, but on another level, you can only choose things when it occurs to you to choose them. So who's in control of when it occurs to you? We get into these discussions of, do we have free will or not, which is that alone would be a show. But it goes deeper than this, but as a shorthand, when I was a kid, I used to hear about the concept of free will. I would think, oh yeah, I could do anything I want. But at some point it was pointed out to me that no, I don't have an infinity of things I can do. I can only ever do what occurs to me to do. If it doesn't occur to me, I don't have the freedom to do it. Okay, that makes sense. That kind of narrows down the infinite choices to whatever can occur to me. But how or from where do things occur to me? I'm not in control of that.
How do things occur to us? How do we have the thoughts that we have? Where do those thoughts come from?
Now, does it look like you're in control of any of it?
No, I'm in no control of anything.
So you've just freed yourself from the responsibility of everything. As you're starting to see that you're not responsible for the thoughts, and you start to recognize that you share this singular being with everyone and everything, little by little, it makes sense that the same is true for everybody else. Your mom's not responsible for the thoughts that occur to her to believe in her religion the way that she does, or to share it with you the way that she does. And so that it allows more space for just unconditional loving. Now this doesn't mean that we accept unacceptable behavior from people, but we now recognize that it's not coming from something that they have control over.
It's like I don't have to stay in an abusive relationship
Right.
just because of this concept. It's like, no, I can leave, but still know that that person has no control over their thought process. But I still can get the hell out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of there for sure. So, sometimes the most loving thing you could do is to never see the person again.
Yeah.
But you're now no longer beholden to them being different in order for you to improve, to get your more units of happiness.
I don't need them to change in order for me to get my happiness. Right.
This will become your North Star in every situation. Who am I truly? Who is the one that is that to which all of my experience is appearing, versus how do I need to change my experience? To continually know yourself as unlimited being rather than a limited separate self. Because it's only to the mind of a separate self that there are still traces and shreds of, oh, circumstances can cause my feelings. But when I know who I am, then, oh yeah, I still may have feelings, but I'm that within which the entirety of experience arises, lingers, and dissolves. All of that comes and goes, and I never go anywhere, nor am I ever diminished or destroyed by anything that I know, no matter how intense it may be in the moment that temporarily comes. And rather than a heavy discipline, there's just a gentle, fun sort of exercisey thing you can do throughout the day that, if you're willing to do it, I'm not saying it absolutely works for everybody, because everybody's mind is constructed a little bit different, but by and large, people seem to gain from this. If you took time, maybe if you set your watch alarm or phone alarm, whatever it is, say like 3 times a day, you pause for, if you'd be willing to pause for 30 seconds or a minute or so, and just sit quietly for a moment and go, I am that which is aware of the sight of that book on my shelf over there. I am that which is aware of the sound of the whatever. I am that which is aware of the air on my skin. Whatever is currently in your environment. All of those things will come and go, but I awareness remain unscathed by anything that it is I know or hear or feel or think. And just little by little, you just gently stretch the windows of knowing yourself, of awareness throughout the day, until, slowly and gently at your own pace, you start to live more and more of the predominance of each day, knowing yourself as being rather than as a separate, vulnerable self who's at the mercy of her circumstances. We either say out loud or we think in our minds, I am this, I am that, I am hungry, I'm tired, I'm late, I am in need of calling my mother, I am whatever. It just goes on all day long, all day long. We speak about this being that we recognize ourselves to be, and we call that being I. But in those sentences, I am this, I am that, whatever, if we don't examine it, we will sort of reinforce our belief as the separate self who is this conditional thing. But if we look at it very closely, we start to see that in every sentence that started with I am followed by something, the only thing that was consistently true in that sentence was I am. Everything else was a come and a go of different lengths. So another name for happiness, another name for constant, unlimited being, is I am. Everybody has a fraction of knowing this because they refer to I am all day long. So they know that there's this perspective that they just don't know how limitless this I am is. So don't make a big thing about it, but from time to time, if you remember, notice yourself saying, I am, I'm this, I'm that, whatever. And if you can, and if you can't, don't worry about it at all. Just reflect on, oh, I just noticed that I said I am the I am. I'm not what follows it. That's a way of starting to disidentify with circumstances and roles. Or I am the fun aunt. Well, no, you am. The fun aunt is just a temporary appearance. I am that to which this feeling of anxiety is appearing. The feeling of anxiety will come and go and change in intensity, but I am will remain whole and unbroken.
Feels so simple, and it is so simple.
It's the simplest, it's the most intimately simple thing that there is for everybody.
Why do we complicate it so much?
Well, again, it goes back to our conditioning. You've done so many separation mind push-ups that your muscles are really locked into seeing the world that way. So you're not going to release it in the course of one conversation, or there'll be like onion layers that just keep peeling off more and more the more you deepen in establishing yourself and knowing the being that you are rather than the limited role you believe yourself to be.
So, what does it mean to stop identifying with roles, labels, and categories?
So I just want to put out as a marker, the ultimate answer to everything is the knowing of yourself as unlimited being, right? It seems to me a role that we play is it's a cluster of thoughts that create thought images of who we think we are in certain circumstances with certain people or at different times today. And we may have a multitude of those different thought clusters, and some may seem wildly different from the others, depending on who we're with and what's going on. But all of those are constructed out of thoughts that we have. And all of those thoughts are known to who we truly are, this unlimited being. If I said we need to stop identifying with, I want to qualify that by saying, I'm not saying do an active process of stop thinking that I'm this or stop thinking. No, if you explore further what it is we're talking about, you'll see that anything that has to do with the realm of thought is not about managing your thoughts and trying to think differently, trying to curtail certain types of thoughts or whatever. It's just recognizing that any concept we have of a certain identity is not who we are. We are that to which the concept of our identity has occurred. But if we temporarily turn back to knowing again who we are, the unlimited being of peace, love without condition, then the grip that this role seemed to have had on defining us falls away. Now, there's nothing we need to do with it from the standpoint of we have to play roles to do things in life in order to just get shit done, right? We play certain roles. But what we could dissolve more and more to our great joy is the belief that any role we're playing is actually who we are. The more I know I'm unlimited being, well, I'm not any thought that appears to me. I'm not any feeling that appears to me. I'm not any sense perception that appears to me. I'm the unlimited arena in which they occur. Now, with that, let me do what life presents me to do in terms of activities or my relations. However, and this is one benefit that most of us notice pretty early on is in all of my relationships, to whatever degree I was living as though that relationship that will completely disappear. So now you can participate freely in that relationship, needing nothing from it. And when you show up in a relationship with anybody, just from the pure, oh, I love to spend time with this person, rather than needing them to be a certain way. The quality of your relationship changes for the infinitely better. Imagine being in a romantic relationship where you're just with somebody because you love to share your being with them, rather than, oh, I need you to complete me, Jerry Maguire, or whatever. That, I guess that reference is old now because that movie was so long ago. But that idea that most of us have gone into relationships endlessly looking for that perfect mate who fills my holes or completes me or can deal with my shit because they're, whatever it is, we've set it up so that we've bestowed this impossible task on somebody else to continue to make us happy when our own standards for our happiness is changing all the time. So even if somebody was devoted 24/7 to trying to make us happy, they would still keep getting it wrong because they'd be operating on insufficient information. Most relationships run into trouble at some point because nobody could possibly be a constant IV drip of happiness causing into another person. But once we really deepen into knowing who we are, we've now just freed anybody in the world from having to fulfill that impossible responsibility. Now we can just meet somebody from the, oh, I really enjoy this person. And we could find our quote unquote soulmate from this pure criteria of, I would love to spend my time with this person, end of story. No needs that I'm the victim of needing to be fulfilled. And so that could be freeing in romantic relationships and friendships, family relationships, workplace environments. You now start to live every moment fully in the world, enjoying it, but not needing anything from the world in order to get you to a better place. Okay, I can't say for 100% sure that since the start of this podcast, you've had anything shift for you. But if I look at your face and hear the sound of your voice, it really seems as if something happened. So whatever that was, it is available to everybody and will continually deepen. How do you put words to that?
I think for me, I started this conversation feeling anxious about something outside of me that had nothing to do with this episode or with you or sitting down to talk to you. It was something that I feel like I have no control over. And just in this conversation, I I have shifted in the sense that I can feel like that thing doesn't have power over me. In this moment right now, it's like, okay, it's that's happening, but it doesn't have to make me feel any certain way because it's just my thoughts that are allowing it
Yes.
to make me feel a certain way.
And then you said, in this moment now, in this moment right now, just a glimmer of a place to go with this is remembering, is it ever not this moment right now? If it's always this moment right now and that thing can't cause my feelings, then that's always true forever. But that doesn't mean feelings won't arise and my thoughts won't change, cloud over, and that will definitely happen. The content of right now will sometimes be an intense motherfucker, but it won't always be that. It will always be different. It will change completely. It will change in intensity. It'll go sideways. It'll go all different ways. But you, the knower of all experience, you, the eternal right now, are un, undamaged imperturbably by anything that happens. So it's just a matter of continually bringing yourself back to knowing who you are.
That just clicked something for me. It is the concept of like nothing outside of me can hurt me. Like I might feel sad, I might feel angry, I might feel hurt, but that's still not going to destroy who I inherently am. Which is what? Which is peace, which is
Isn't a good definition of peace the inability of anything to perturb you, disturb you in any way.
Yeah, nothing outside of me can break me. It might hurt me, it might make me feel sad, but nothing is going to.
Oh, wait. You half of that right. Nothing outside of me can hurt me. Don't go on to the other stuff of what it can do, because there's nothing outside of me. And we established that early on.
Right. Ah, it's gonna click. It's gonna click, Joel.
Yeah, I know it is. It already is. Nothing outside of me can hurt me. Nothing outside of me is needed to help me, because there's nothing outside of me.
Because there's nothing outside of me.
My entire experience is happening within me, who I really am. Unlimited, infinite, eternal awareness. That's who I am.
I love that so much. Okay, the question I'm going to ask every guest on this theme is, for you, Joel, what is happiness?
So while it can take many expressions, ultimately it just is. Happiness is another name for awareness, consciousness, God, if you don't see God as a separate old guy in the sky, or rather, whatever your name for the all of everything is, another name for that is happiness. Happiness is the arena within which all the contents of our experience continually arises, lingers for a time, and disappears back into. The person who I've learned the lion's share of what it is I understand, and whom I work for as an editor on his published work, is a gentleman named Rupert Spira, wonderful English philosopher. And I love his explanation. He says that if we were to break this understanding down into one good sentence, which I think also will be a great definition of happiness, is that the peace and joy that everyone is seeking through all of their activity is already the nature of their being. And we share this being with everyone and everything without exception.
I love that. Well, this has been such an eye-opening and perspective-shifting conversation that I cannot wait to edit, and I cannot wait to listen to over and over again, because I feel like I'm going to find new moments of aha each time I listen. So thank you so much for this. Do you feel complete?
I felt complete from the start. This has just been value added.
Joel, where can people find you if you'd like to be found?
Probably the easiest place is to go to my website, joeldrazner.com, JoelDrazner, or they could read me on Substack at No Point B, Joel Drazner, No Point B.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. You are a gem.
Right back at you.
Seekers, I don't know about you, but that was some mind-altering stuff we just learned there. But I think if I were to narrow it down and just get to the core of what Joel was teaching us, it's that who we inherently are is happiness, is peace. And we don't have to go looking for it, we don't have to go searching for it, because we are it. There's nothing we have to fix. There's no goal of happiness that we have to get to, because we are happiness. It is us and we are it, and there is no separation between the two. I mean, that makes me feel so at peace. And I hope that by listening to this episode, you found some peace as well. Now, next week, we're going to dive into the science of happiness with therapist and neuroscience educator, Marty Burgos. We'll explore how the brain processes joy, what really drives our sense of well-being, and how we can intentionally rewire ourselves for more lasting happiness. This is the Hanged Woman podcast, where perspective is power. Until next time, hang in there, Seekers.